how that air is going to expand into the piece. All right, so she's going to put a thread wrap, more of a random wrap than what I did on the fish, for her nautilus shell. She's doing that in what looks like a really, really beautiful marine blue. Still very plastic. Eric could take that little bit of glass, jump on a moped, like I said before, and wrap it all the way around the outside of the ship as long as he has enough heat. And it would be as thin as fishing line and as flexible as fishing line. Very similar way to the way fiber optic cable is made. So continuing to do some bit working here, we really do depend on our assistants when we're blowing glass. You're really only as good as your assistant. And while there are some glass blowers that work by themselves, I talked about this earlier in the show, it's a pretty unusual situation, and I find it an incredibly limiting situation to be able to work entirely by yourself. Do we have a blow hose? If you were to work by yourself, there's some special tools that you might be using up here on stage that we're not using right now. One of those tools would be a blow hose. Okay, so it's a little cork that fits on the back of your pipe with a swivel on the inside of it, and a long length of tube coming off of it so that you can actually inflate your glass and shape it at the same time. So that might be something that you might choose to use if you were blowing by yourself. You might also have a really, really fantastic, expensive handmade tool that I like to call 2 nails put into the wall. And all that's for is so you can hang your pipe up vertically so that you can get bits and other things like that. You'll usually put the pipe hanger very, very close to your reheating chamber, so you're getting a little bit of radiant heat off of the reheating chamber while you're running over and getting bits or punnies or things like that. The reason you have to hang your pipe up should be really obvious, right? It's because the glass is always moving. So when you hang it vertically, the shape isn't changing, but if you were to leave it at the bench, the glass would fall off center. There are some people that have even gone so far as to install a little motor on the end of their bench that will keep the pipe turning for them at a very, very even rate, very slow rate to keep the glass on center so you can serve bits and things like that. At some point you're MacGyvering it, you know. I mean, at some point you're getting a little crazy with it, but there's people who have done this to great success. There's actually a glass blower back at the museum called William Gudenrath, who does extremely high-end, paper-thin Venetian stemware with matching lids, little dragons, and tiny little handles, and he does it entirely by himself with no assistance whatsoever. While listening to classical music, if you ever get a chance to visit our museum and go to our educational and fabrication wing, which is called the studio, you can see him do it. He actually does it a couple days a week and teaches staff.
So a little bit more water here, thermally shocking that temporary bond with a light tap. There we go, big round of applause to Eric C for a really beautiful fluted base. Yes. A wafer? Yeah, I'm sure that's another term. I've never heard of that term yet. To the tossed. Yep, that's another word. So I just learned something new today. So wafer is another way in which to describe that. A wafer. Yep. I think that's new to us too, I believe. So at this point in time, Eric is slowly beginning to straighten up the edge here, and then he's going to add a glue bit. And this is going to be, I think, rolled on as well. I'm not really sure yet. But what he's doing now is kind of using the blades of the jacks to do a couple of things, or the straps of the jacks. He's kind of pressing a little bit, making sure it's nice and straight, and then kind of reinforcing the flatness of it, because when he begins to add that small bit of glass, he wants that to attach as evenly as possible. And there we go, a really beautiful, very elegant martini glass. You want the other door? Yeah. They see how delicate he is from going into the pickup oven here, because the smallest vibration could actually break the piece. Yes. Yes, for goblets it will be a little bit trickier. In regards to most pieces, the 10 to 15 degree variance isn't that bad. But for goblets it's a little tricky, but as you can see, it's not a problem at all. It just means you have to be a little more aware that there are gusts of winds, and it could potentially send a cold fracture on the piece. But he's working very hard making sure it stays under the grid here, and then placing it in the oven as fast as possible. So right now he's kind of crisping.
Punch down, we're twisting, we're turning, we're lifting heavy things, doing really delicate movements. It's really tough on the body. So we've tried to study ergonomics as much as possible and make adjustments, but there's really not a lot we can change in terms of the bench and how we work the glass. You can imagine the a little bit of cool air coming from that microphone, Sophia. And she's going to score that jack line using this diamond file. A little bit of water there sets up some thermal shock. So that with just a little vibration here, breaks free. Great job. Very nice.
Flowers and the birds and the floppy brims and everything like that. This was his thing, and you never would have known it if you'd seen it either, because he had in there. Gather glass, roll through the color, shape it up, serve it, get it hot, serve it, get it hot, serve it, get it hot, serve it, get it hot. 8 hours a day, 1 hour in the middle for lunch. And that was my job. He was great to work for. The work was very, very repetitive. But I look back on that job as being the moment when I actually cut through the class. And this is after, going through college, a 4-year degree program, and having worked in class for an additional year outside of college. But getting that kind of repetition on the pipe over